just to visualize yourself doing whatever it is that you would want to do, because you have to see that vision in order to work towards it. You have to visualize yourself already there, which is manifestation, faith, however you want to call it. You have to see it first.
Welcome to another episode of the Create Your Next Breakthrough podcast. I'm your host, Edmund Lee, and today we're exploring how life's biggest transitions, which might feel like breakdowns, can actually become our most powerful breakthroughs. Our guest today is Jeanette Jones, an exuberant life coach who specializes in helping women during one of life's most challenging transitions, the empty nest phase. It's a time when many women find themselves asking, what's next, and feeling disconnected from their purpose. With over 16 years of experience as a mental health assessor and therapist, Jeanette brings deep insight how we can transform these feelings of emptiness and uncertainty into opportunities for profound growth and self-discovery. She's also the author of Step by Step Walk with God, where she shares her personal journey of faith through both challenges and triumphs. What makes Jeanette's approach unique is how she guides women to see this transition not as an ending, but as an invitation to move beyond their familiar roles and titles to discover who they truly are at their core. I'm excited to dive deep with Jeanette today and explore how we can turn what feels like a breakdown moment into a powerful breakthrough opportunity. Please join me in welcoming Jeanette Jones to the show. Welcome, Jeanette.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Great to have you today. And so, Jeanette, I'm curious, before you have an amazing story. I read your bio, I looked at your website, I looked at your social media, and I'm curious, but before we get started, if you can just fill in our listeners, before you became the person that you are today, helping women rediscover themselves, what was life like for you?
Wow. Sometimes I think back to who I was then compared to who I am now, and I was just a mother. I wasn't Jeanette. I was Jeanette the mother. I wasn't Jeanette the single woman, the woman that likes to travel, the woman that likes to dance, the woman that likes to write. I wasn't her. I was my daughter's mom. And that was it. I was just her. And I really didn't think too much about my future. I did go back to school and obtain my master's degree, my undergrad and my master's degree while raising my daughter. But I didn't really think too much about my own life. Everything was centered around her. So that's who I was before. And my story, Edwin, goes like, everybody have to leave the nest. It's inevitable, but I didn't think about that. I just thought me and my daughter would be like, we're like this forever.
What was that moment that you knew that it wasn't going to be like this forever?
Well, when she started going out dating and things, and I was at home alone, I was like, okay, this is what life may be like when eventually she moves out. But it just came so quick. Not that she moved out immediately, but it just seemed like the time went by so fast. So she stayed at home till she was about 25. And, we would go shopping together. We would go on vacation together. It was like I wasn't dating anyone. I was divorced from her father. So it was just me and her, arm in arm, hand in hand. So when she moved out, I was like, okay, who the hell am I? Who is Jeanette? What does she want to do with her life? That was my aha moment. One day she came back home and I was just in tears. I really was. And she's like, Mom, you have to get yourself together. And I was like, okay, I am. So I started to seek out different things that I enjoyed before I became a mom, such as dancing. I love to dance, love to travel. So I started doing some solo travel, and I even started online dating. So that's when I started to discover, who is Jeanette? And I'm thinking, phase? This is the new me. So the dancing, I started taking what they call Chicago stepping lessons. That was really cool. So I started getting out, meeting people. So it was interesting. So to move forward, I started just discovering who I was. And for a period, I felt like I was just stagnant. And I had finished my master's program. So I finished that program and working in the mental health field, helping people, but I still wasn't feeling satisfied. So I sought out to seek for myself. What do I need to make me feel like I still had purpose in life? And I wasn't just called here to be a mom. So I went through a program, different programs. I joined a couple of programs for empty nesters. And I also joined a coaching program for attracting love. Because being online, I was in and out of relationships and all that. So I just started to do a lot of self work,
Definitely.
a lot of self healing. But the most valuable thing I encountered was a program I went through for empty nesters, where you look at your supportive, who's your supportive support group. Because you still need a tribe. It wasn't my daughter any longer, but I still needed a tribe. That's where I started to just go deep inside. So that's when one day I was just looking in the mirror and I said, look, that's when I said, who the hell are you and who do you want to become? The most important thing was, who do you want to become? So I'm a writer. So I got some paper and I started writing down things that I wanted to accomplish in my own life. What do I want to do with myself? What do I want to do? And I'm not saying today everything is 100, but I do, that's why I started on my business, Living Victoriously, to help empty nester women to discover really who they are. Because a lot of times we just associate ourselves with being a mom or a wife or a significant other. We don't, as women, we're so busy because we're nurturers by nature. We just born nurturers. We'll take care of everybody else, but we put our own desires on the back burner. I did it, and I know so many other women who have done the same thing. Because as women, we look out for the children, we, go all in. And then when they're gone, you're just left kind of holding the bag like, okay, what do I do for me? And sometimes I think, if I could go back in time and talk to myself, what really would I say to myself? And I say to myself, I would tell myself, you deserve to be happy too. You deserve to be happy too. Not just your daughter, but you. You deserve to be happy. So do things that you enjoy doing. One of my favorite songs I like is the song I Hope You Dance. Don't know if you've ever heard of that.
I have.
Yeah, but it talks about, if you get a chance to dance or set it out, make sure you just dance. And that could mean so many things. But I didn't, back then, I wasn't thinking that. I was just thinking of taking care of my daughter.
So, Jeanette, for our listeners who may be going through that breakdown moment where whether they're an empty nester and their daughter or their son or whoever has left the home, or they're alone and they're in tears and they're not sure what to do. Maybe they're looking in the mirror and they're in shambles. What are some steps? We know what you did. We know that you started dancing and you started traveling and you started doing online dating and writing. But for our listeners who are listening today, what would you recommend that they could do? What are like maybe one or two things that they could start doing when they're in that moment?
Right. I would recommend to if some people, not everybody meditate, but meditation is also very good to do. And to just take a quiet moment yourself. Don't do anything drastic, but and even if you have to see a therapist or a coach, but just take a moment, just a quiet moment. And I'm a writer, like I said, I write things too. But just take that moment, breathe, and see what is it that you really want. Because a lot of times we don't know. But if you take that quiet moment to yourself to say, hey, how do I want my life? Even if you have to record that, if you have to write it down, what do you want your life to look?
So when you're in that breakdown moment, when you're in tears, you said that you looked at the mirror also, but you said that you also did writing. So let's jump into the first one. The first one was the mirror. When you were looking at the mirror, what was happening at that point? Were you like, were you walking? Were you in a room looking at the mirror? Like, were you somewhere? And then like, what happened exactly?
Yeah, I was in the bathroom and I just looked in the bathroom mirror and I could, just looking at myself. And started talking to myself and I said, who are you? And then I told myself, who the hell are you? Because you don't know what you want. You have this degree in clinical counseling, but who are you beside that? Who are you beside a mother? What else is it? I was like, what? Early 50, maybe 50, 49 or so when my daughter moved out.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of life left. I still got a lot of life left. But what?
So what was happening? So what was happening at that point in time? Because a lot of times I talk with my listeners about the voices in our head and how there's two voices in our head. There's like the voice that's like, okay, you're amazing and you got this. And like, okay, it's like anything you put your mind to, you can do it. And then there's that other voice in our head that's like, no, it's like, who are you? It's like, who are you?
Right.
You're like, and so did you have those voices going on in your head at that time? And what were they saying to you?
I think anytime we go for a change or try to do something or try to step into a higher self, you're going to have that voice that says, you think you can do that?
Yeah.
Who are you? You think you're going to sit free and feel freedom? You're a mother. Sit down.
Yeah. So you got that voice saying that. So what'd you do at that point in time? It's like that voice is going like that to you.
Right.
And here you are like, here you are in tears. Like you're not helping. It's like, so what did you do?
Right. And I mean, parts of me were still afraid because I had been with my daughter. We did everything together. So I had to meet all new people. I still had my family. But as far as friends, I had to meet people. And I'm very sociable. But I just didn't do it with my daughter. But those voices were definitely there.
So in that moment, what did you do when those voices were in your head? They were like saying, hey, who are you? Like, what did you do exactly?
I just kept going. I kept going. And some days it wasn't as easy as it might seem now that I look back. It didn't like that one night and everything was like poof. Everything was good.
Yeah.
All that negativity in my head was there. It took me I would say a good at least 6 months to a year to, I started dancing kind of immediately after my daughter because it was something I always wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So by dancing, I started meeting people and it started giving me confidence. Okay, you got this. You're going out meeting people, you're dancing, you're doing something you enjoy. Hey, why not? So even if you take one step and that gives you the boost and the confidence you need, you can run there. You can run.
And what was it about the dancing that gave you that confidence? Was it the fact that you were learning a new skill? Was it the fact you were moving, or was it you were meeting people? What was it exactly?
I think it was all of the above, Edmund. I think it was all of the above. I think dancing allows you, because I love music, but it allows you to just feel free and just be able to move your body. It just felt free.
So would it be accurate to say, like, if somebody's feeling down, if they're feeling like sad or angry, it's almost like just changing your physiology? It's like dancing or moving or singing or humming, that'll make a huge difference?
Exactly. Because in my coaching program, I teach about optimal health.
Yeah.
Because you can't do anything without your health. You can't do anything. You can't dance. You can't meet people. You can't travel. So the main thing too is optimal health.
Optimal health.
Yeah.
So what does that mean to you then? Optimal health.
Optimal health is like a holistic view. It's not just the diet. It's not just the exercise, but it's like the meditation is all of that in one. Make sure you're whole in all of those areas. Because if you can take your vitamins, drink your water, eat healthy. All of those things will help too. But it's also mind.
It's the mind. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to get your mind, you can't think negative thoughts. Like you were mentioning, Edmund, when I was going through this, the negative thoughts were there. It was like, who are you going to meet? Who's going to talk to you? And even when I went online dating, my daughter was like, who's talking to you? Who are you talking to? But, it was great. It's still great. And now that I have the freedom and I know what I want to do to travel, I have my business that I help other empty nester women. It's great. And I'm so glad that I took that leap.
And I'm just curious. So you were doing the online dating. Did you end up finding somebody that you enjoy the company with?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I went through a lot of what they say, the frogs. I went through a lot of that. But what I did also is I went through I hired a love coach. Because a lot of times with relationships, we don't realize that the relationships that are around us, our parents' relationships, that affect how we see love and relationships, other relationships around us, how we view ourselves. Prior to going online, I viewed myself as a mother.
Okay.
How was I going to date somebody? I'm a mother. So I had to view myself as a woman, in order to get there.
And so I'm curious, and I'm sure our listeners are curious as well. But what I want to ask you is, okay, so relationships are really important. And so
yes,
would you say that growing up, you were more resembling how your mother was like, or maybe how your father was like?
My parents divorced, and I talked about this in my book. And I say I don't really know the full reason why they divorced, but I forgive both of them because I don't know. So I can't hold them hostage for divorcing because I don't really know exactly what happened. But I think my view of relationships, I was afraid. So I had been running. I was online, but I was just running.
You were running. What did you do when you were running? And then what did you have to do to shift? Like what did you do to shift so that you weren't running anymore? And you're like, okay, here, it's like, I'm ready. I'm ready to attract these men and to be open.
Like I said, going through that program, knowing myself, knowing my history, and I had to ask myself once again, what is it that Jeanette really wants as far as a relationship? It was easy for me, Edmund, to say what I wanted business-wise. It was easy. Okay, I wanted to dance. I love to travel. All of that was easy. But to say what type of relationship I wanted, what type of man I wanted, that was a little bit more difficult for me. It was a little bit more difficult. But the running, like you said, you can sabotage anything, whether it's business-wise, because anybody who has owned their own business, it takes patience and perseverance and consistency, which is kind of the same things it takes for a relationship. But now I look back at, my daughter leaving home, and because that's what you want your kids to do. You want them to leave home. You don't want them to stay there forever. But I am so thankful that I have my life and I can live it how I want to.
And so now that you have your life and you're living it how you want to, what does that look like?
That looks like, okay,
What are you doing?
I work in the mental health field, helping people. I have my own business where I help empty nester women. I teach them the 6 pillars of my business, which is supportive relationships, optimal health, and how we work through all of that. The optimal health and the supportive relationships, I think, is the important. And then we talking about wealth, abundance, wealth. Because finances a lot of times will stop people. Because when you're empty nester, your finances change. And sometimes it's for the better because you don't have that child there to supply for. And then sometimes not because some people's children are in college. And then in the pillars is also, how do you balance all that out? How do you balance this life? Because it has to be balanced. And spirituality and self-awareness is also key to knowing really who you are. And it's not necessarily like religion or anything, but spirituality of knowing who you really are and just becoming more self-aware of who you are. And I had to do that, which came back to even the dating. I had to see who was Jeanette.
When you're asking yourself that question, who's Jeanette? What did you do? So you mentioned a lot of things. So our listeners who might be at that point in time, they're like, hey, it's like, who am I? And they're confused. They don't know what to do. So what should they do when they're like, who am I?
Like I said, I would get in a still place to see who you want to become. Because who you are, if that's not who you want to be, you need to look at who you want to become.
So you would recommend number one, just going to find a quiet place, maybe in their house, inside their house or outside?
Yes.
Okay.
I love outside.
Outside. So maybe step one, go find a quiet place, ideally outside.
Yeah.
And then what's next?
Just sit and think, what is it? And you have to kind of know, Edmund, what is it that you're looking for? And you're not going to know everything right then. You're not. You're just not.
So what's a person going to do? They go outside. They're going to, would you recommend they sit down or they stand up, or what do they do at that point?
Yeah. I mean, it's up to the individual.
Okay.
I like standing up. I like, this is another thing. I hired a personal trainer as well once after my daughter left. So I lost a lot of weight with that. And I like running outside. I put in my music and I just run. I love it because I feel free. So that's one of the things that helped me also.
So
and the exercise. I love exercising now.
So it goes back to the movement then, the changing the physiology, whether it's a dancing or the going outside and running.
Right.
So that's probably the first thing. That's the thing that made the most difference for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
The movement.
Okay. Did you find that after you had that movement, it's like you had more clarity in terms of what the next step was?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Between the meditation and the movement, the dancing and the exercise. Okay. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Everything became clear.
Beautiful.
And I'm not done yet. But my goal is to help other women, whether they're empty nesters or just shifting, because some women just live by themselves. They may not be empty nesters, they may just live alone. But to help them go from, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling down, to making themselves a priority and reclaiming their life and their direction where they want to go. And to really take control of their life. Because sometimes we have to reconnect with our desires. Because remember when I started out, I said, my daughter danced. I love dancing, but I put her in dancing. But for whatever reason, I stopped dancing. So then you have to reconnect with the things that you enjoy. And some things were new.
Definitely. And I think a key thing that you said was connect with the things that you enjoy. And would you say that being happy and being joyful plays a big role in being able to create that shift in your life?
Yes, absolutely. Because if I'm not happy and I'm not joyful, how can I take other women past their unhappiness, their loneliness? If I'm sitting around looking like,
But is there one thing that they can do in that meantime where they're like, if they're like, what can they do to like get themselves like happier or more joyful? So they can
they
just
would have
break
to know
themselves.
something that they enjoy doing.
Okay.
But it's a small thing. Like I said, the dancing
Awesome.
started it for me. The dancing, because I was like, oh, and plus I was meeting people.
Perfect.
So you may just want to go to the park, meet people, or you go to, meet up. I met people on there, just travel with. I was solo traveler for a minute. And to the introvert people, I would say, get out there, enjoy life. Don't let, okay, I'm an introvert, hold you back. Get out there and enjoy life. Because if you don't, it'll pass you by.
Did you always enjoy your life, or was there a particular point in time that you started to do it?
I think when I've always pretty much enjoyed life, but I think now because I'm older, I see life so differently. And it's a joy because some people, not here or they have health issues. So I just see life so differently now. So I make sure I enjoy it.
So you talked about the 6 pillars earlier. Can you
Right.
break down what's step 1 again?
Step 1 is supportive relationships. And supportive relationships, we're going to need supportive relationships in this process. You're going to need, people, whether it's your family. And I talk about in my book about how supportive my family was. And throughout this process and every process.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were very supportive. And then there's optimal health.
So actually going back really quickly. So going back, before we move to the optimal health pillar, I want to ask you about the supportive relationships. And so you talk about the importance of supportive relationships. So from what you've seen working with your clients, obviously you have a wide range of different types of clients, but
Right.
what do you see as the main difference between the ones who actually have that support versus the ones who don't? What difference does that make?
Yeah, it's a difference because it's like going up a hill and pushing a ball. If you have somebody help you pushing the ball, you're going to get that ball up the hill. But if you don't have any help pushing that ball, it's going to be pretty heavy. So the support helps them move forward. Without my family support, I don't know. So that's very important.
So what does support look like then?
Support
Or sound like?
Yeah, it looks encouragement, just encouraging someone. Sometimes people think, oh, support is financial support. That could be it too. But just encouragement. Someone even sending you a text saying, hey, have a great day. You're not alone. Just having that support, whether it's friends, family. For me, it was more family, but I had support with friends as well.
And so for you, let's talk about you. So when it comes to the support, what kind of support was your family or friends doing? Were they texting you? Were they saying, "Hey, Jeanette, it's like, oh, it's like, keep going. It's like you're doing really good. It's like, oh, we love you." Like, what were they doing? Like, were they encouraging every day, every week? Like, tell me a little bit more.
My family every day.
Every day.
Every day. Every day. They're calling and saying, hey, how you doing? And they would ask me, had I talked to my daughter, and how's everything going, with me? And then when I was online, they want to know, have you met anybody? So it was just constant support. And even friends, calling, saying, hey, how you doing? It's okay. And some friends would send scriptures to me saying, different things. So that support really made a difference. It really did. And throughout my life, like I said, my family has always been my biggest supporters.
It's awesome. And how about with like your clients or people out there who might not feel that they have that support from either family or friends? It obviously makes it a lot more difficult, does it?
Oh yeah. Like I use the analogy of pushing a ball up the hill. If you don't have that assistance, it's a little bit more difficult. Not that it can't be done. It just may take you a little bit more, and you may have to go through some extra steps.
So what would they do if it's like there is more resistance? Maybe maybe they don't have that type of support that you did within the family or friend environment. What do they do? Because it's like they're dragging. It's like they're pushing that ball.
Yeah, right. I would say, Edmund, that sometimes you have to. When I talk about the spirituality and self-awareness, sometimes you got to encourage yourself. But you have to read books. You have to meditate and affirmations. If you do those things, you're going to meditate. You're going to encourage yourself. Because sometimes I've had to do that too. But yeah, when you don't have that support, you got to dig deep within.
So that's step one. What's step two?
Is optimal health.
Optimal health. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah. Optimal health, like I said, is more of the wholeness of the holistic view of your health.
Yeah.
Not just because some people think optimal health, I just got to eat right, exercise, but it's also mind. Are you checking in with your mental health? Do you acknowledge your mental health? So it's just a roundabout way of eating healthy, drinking enough water, exercising, moving your body. Make sure you're moving it. Everybody can't afford a personal trainer, but you can get out and do something.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And so how is somebody going to know? How does somebody know if their mind is good or not, if it's right or not?
It's not, a lot of people, that's kind of hard to, that's kind of hard to, I would say defeating thoughts. When you're negative about yourself, when you have self-defeating thoughts about who you are. One of my clients in mental health last week, she told me, she says, I'm a horrible person. I was like, no, you're not. So when people tell themselves things like that, that's when hey, I may need some assistance from, some mental health assistance.
And I'm big on the whole holistic. And my belief is that the mind, it has a huge impact on the rest, on the body and everything that we do.
Oh, absolutely.
And so what I've seen, and I wonder if you've seen that as well in your work, the people who maybe don't necessarily have that type of mindset or they have that negative self-talk, do you see that kind of show up in their body in terms of them maybe having pain or being kind of hunched over or moving a certain way?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think stress takes over bodies. We could go to a whole nother
thing, yeah.
But yeah, I think stress takes over your body. And that's when disease and different things come.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's why you have to, the exercise and all that, optimal health. It gets you going so you won't have to.
Gets it out of you.
Yeah. Dance.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I love the whole dancing and the movement. Because even if a person isn't necessarily feeling great or in optimal state or optimal health, just by the fact of moving or running or dancing, it automatically gets them into that state where they're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm happy, I'm joyful. It's like, okay, it's like I feel like I'm feeling healthy.
And it's just certain music you put on, you're going to start dancing.
So you said 2 was optimal health.
And the wealth and abundance.
Wealth and abundance
is also one of my pillar, which talks about, finances. Like I said, a lot of times with finances, finances is a hard thing for a lot of people. But how you view finances, we go over in my program. What were you taught about finances when you were young? Because we all were taught something.
Yeah.
Where did you get your view of money from? Whether we were told, oh, we can't afford that, or what, it's how you were taught, how you view money.
And what makes this area or field hard for people?
Lack of knowledge.
It's lack of knowledge.
I think a lack of knowledge is in finances.
Would you say that's from how they were raised or how they were growing up, maybe from modeling from parents?
Absolutely. And a lot of people, I've done some financial workshops, and a lot of people don't use budgets. They just spend the money. So that's one thing, one of the pillars.
So budgeting is huge.
Yes, right. And looking at your purpose or your destiny, I really don't believe we have just one purpose. I think we have various purposes. So we go over that as well.
Okay.
And how do you balance all this out? How do you balance everything out? Because life is a lot. And as an empty nester, or like I said, or a woman that's living alone, or even the married women sometimes, to just balance out their life. How do you balance all that out? Your wealth, your abundance, your supportive relationships, purpose. How do you balance it all? So we look at that too, how to balance it. And that's probably going to look different for each person, because what's important to one person may not be important to the next.
Definitely. And it's very different because of each person's upbringing. They have different value systems.
Right.
And perhaps based on the time of their life as well, they may value something completely different when they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s versus maybe when they're 50s or 60s or 70s.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, how I thought 5 years ago is even different today.
And so, Jeanette, as we wrap up, how can our listeners learn more about you and the work that you're doing?
They can contact me on my website is JeanetteJonesLifeCoach.com, and at Jeanette Jones Life Coach on Instagram and Facebook under Jeanette Jones. And also have a business page, Living Victoriously. So they can contact me in any of those. And they can also leave their email on my website so they can get a copy of my newsletter.
Awesome. And is there any upcoming projects coming up for you?
Well, my podcast will start in January, and the program will start also in January again. We're starting it up again. The our Live Life Victoriously coaching program, which it guides empty nesters through transformation.
And so that's for our listeners listening in, that's going to be in January of 2025.
Yes. And I'm excited.
Awesome. You're going to help a lot of people, and there's going to be a lot of women out there who are excited to follow you and join you on this journey, Jeanette.
Exactly. So we can enjoy life and live victoriously.
So before we wrap up, I'd love to just leave our listeners with something powerful that they can take away, Jeanette.
Mm-hmm.
And from your experience, what's a mindset shift that you believe that anyone can adopt to start creating real change in their life?
I believe it's what I just said, just to visualize yourself doing whatever it is that you would want to do, because you have to see that vision in order to work towards it. You have to visualize yourself already there, which is manifestation, faith, however you want to call it. You have to see it first.
Love it. And is there a particular point in time that they need to see themselves at?
When they're ready.
Ready.
When they're ready to visualize it.
Perfect. Visualization.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
And there you have it, everyone. What a powerful conversation that we just had with Jeanette Jones. And it's stories like this that just show that no matter what transition you're going through in life, there's always a path to breakthroughs. And what really stands out to me about Jeanette's story is that instead of seeing the empty nest phase as just an ending, Jeanette shows us how to use it as a catalyst for rediscovery and growth, being able to help women find their path back to themselves. And if Jeanette's story resonated with you today, you can connect with her and learn more about her work in the description and the show notes below. Thank you, Jeanette, for sharing your journey with us. I love the transformational work that you're doing with women. And to all our listeners, remember, wherever you are in your journey, whether you're facing an empty nest, feeling lost in transition, or questioning your purpose, just know that breakthroughs are possible. And sometimes it starts with simply just asking yourself, who am I beyond these roles? Who am I beyond my roles? And thank you so much, Jeanette. And until next time, this has been your host, Edmund Lee. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one. And here's a special bonus gift for our listeners. We're all about getting you into alignment so you can live a life that you love. It's a breathwork meditation that I highly suggest that you do. Go through it, experience it, and share with me the results. You can access it at www.createyournextbreakthrough.com, or you can check it out in the description below. This has been your host, Edmund. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.